Ready? Okay. You good, Jonathan? Okay, cool. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 9 a.m. and it's April 1st. Welcome, April. And we're here for our work session that we have. And those present is Commissioner Gametos and myself, Commissioner Shalder Hernandez. So the first up, we do have the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able to stand, please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. William, I don't think we have anyone on WebEx, but will you just check for me? Okay. So the first up, we do have our Veterans Exemption Impact. Good morning, Lucio. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Lucio Luttrell, Budget and Research Officer. We'll kick today's budget work session off discussing the veteran property tax exemptions. I do want to mention that the Budget Office worked alongside the Assessor's Office to put this presentation together, and they are available to be able to answer any questions that may come up. So I will jump into it. And, all right, let's see. I don't want to switch. We are frozen, William. There we go. Okay, to summarize today's discussion, we'll be talking about House Bill 47, which was recently approved, and it is amending certain property tax exemptions for veterans. So we're gonna focus on the two main components, which is Section 1 and Section 2. I will start with Section 1, which will be amending Section 7-37-5 of the state statutes, and that is the veteran exemption. So currently, the exemption amount is $4,000, but that amount will now be $10,000 beginning tax year 2025, and in subsequent tax years, that amount will be adjusted by CPI. In Section 2 of the bill, this will be amending Section 7-37-5.1 of state statute, and this is the disabled veteran exemption. So I do want to highlight that fully disabled veteran exemption is still in effect for tax year 2025 and subsequent years. But what is amended is beginning in tax year 2026, it will allow for veterans who are less than 100% disabled. So in other words, veterans would be exempt from property tax in an amount equal to the percentage of the veteran's disability as determined by federal law. So it's a percentage-based system. And we'll jump right into the estimated impact that we were able to calculate. So pertaining to veteran exemption, the impact from $4,000 to $10,000, we are using 2024 final certified valuations. On the left side, we have the county-wide impact. So this is all taxing entities within the county. Currently, the loss of revenue at $4,000 is around $773,000. If that amount grew the 250% to the $10,000, we'd be looking at a loss of $1.9 million with a net impact of $1.16 million. So that is countywide, all entities, the municipalities, school districts. But if we look on the right side of this, this is the impact to Doña County's budget. The loss at the $4,000 exemption level is $252,000. If that amount changes to the $10,000, or since it is changing, that new impact would be $630,000 with a net impact of $378,000. So that summarizes based on the most recent valuations, which is 2024's. Section 2, the disabled veteran exemption. So this is the more complicated one. The first portion of this highlights currently the loss of revenue at the 100% disabled level. So all taxing entities, it's around 3.5 million. The county's portion is 1.15 million. What we don't know is effective in 2026, how many veterans have a percent disability. So we are unable to calculate the future impact due to the lack of information, but the Budget Office will be working along the Assessor's Office as information becomes available, and we'll begin working on estimates. And I really wanted to highlight Doña County's property tax revenue history to show you that we may be able to absorb some of this impact. The bottom line shows our budget top line actuals for the most recent 5 years. We typically come in over budget, and that is mainly due to how DFA allows us to budget for property tax revenue. So we budget, it's based on the most recent DFA certified valuations. So for example, right now we are budgeting, or we're in the budget development process for FY '26. So we're using 2024 valuations because that's what we have available. But in reality, during FY '26, we'll be collecting on 2025 valuations. So that is the main reason why the actuals coming over budget. So depending on that percentage, disability exemption, we should be able to absorb in some of that impact, if not all of it. It just really depends on what those numbers come in at. And that's what we have for you today. So with that being said, do you have any questions for us?
Can you go back to the slide that shows the impact for this year and next? There, thank you. Awesome. Okay, wonderful. Commissioners, do you have any follow-up questions, comments, concerns for either Lucio or the assessor?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, of course.
So, Lucio, a couple of questions. We don't have any visibility to the potential number of homeowners that are disabled veterans, even if it's not 100%. There's no way to be able to get an estimate, because I know you said you'll have to get them as we come in. Is there no way that we have that ability?
I asked the question to the assessor's office, and they said, no, we do not. The one number we do know we have is the total amount of veterans based on the exemption that is given at the 4,000 level.
Yeah.
And I think that amount was 6,000, close to 7,000. So total amount of veterans.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out to see, you know, what I don't know how we potentially model, and I know there's probably no exact guidance in being able to do that. So I think that probably creates some concern. But I think as we move forward and we step into this over the next couple of years, we'll have to. I guess I just very much don't want to be caught where we're overestimating and then we get hit. And I know we're going into this at least a little blind. So maybe that's something when we go through our budgeting process over the next couple of years, we'll have to keep in mind. The other question I had is if the county-wide impact for all entities, has this been shared or the other entities aware? And the reason I ask is because I know during the legislative session, LCPS during one of the meetings had discussed it with their, I believe with their lobbyist, that they were potentially looking at an impact. And I don't know if they've had that discussion, understand what they could potentially be looking at, and didn't know if that's something that we can potentially share if we have that information with the different jurisdictions of saying, this is what we are anticipating with the current information we have are the impacts you're going to be seeing.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, so we have not shared this information with any of the other entities. It's going to take some time to calculate the breakdown of this total amount. It was easy to calculate the total, but to calculate the breakdown will take some time, and I could work with the assessor's office to get a breakdown of this information and provide that to them and just let them know it's based on 2024 final valuation. So that amount will be changing this year.
Got it. Yeah, and I don't know that you necessarily have to do all the work. I just was wanting to make sure that we're trying to be sharing the information that we have so that they have some visibility as well as they go into their budgeting, and just trying to make sure we build goodwill where we can with the various jurisdictions across the county. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much for this presentation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gometos, anything?
None, thank you.
None? Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you for this impact report. We really do appreciate it, and we'll be excited to see how it plays into our future budget.
All right. Thank you.
I'm excited for giving veterans exemptions. Okay, next up we have economic development, which is item number 2 today. Welcome, Mr. Macias.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. So, let's see. So as we talk about, Jonathan Macias, Assistant County Manager, as we talk about economic development, it's definitely going to be a discussion about laying the groundwork for what the vision and goals are as we look at our new leadership. And so this is more of an update in terms of where we are with some of the key things that are needed. Specifically, I wanted to let you know about the updates to the RFPs that have been posted, but I wanted to start with one thing that's very pertinent, and that is the active recruitment for the Economic Development Director. We did end up reposting, and that will actually be closing tonight shortly before midnight. It does carry now a $20,000 sign-on bonus after the completion of the probationary period, which is 1 year from when they come on. And so if anybody in the community that is watching or in the audience would like to share that with anybody they feel would be a talented addition to our employee group, they're welcome to scan the QR code up on screen. I also want to let you know that as directed by the County Manager Andrews, we are looking at how we can be a little bit more, create more of a narrative for our recruitment for some of these key positions. So you'll see on the actual active recruitment link that there is a recruitment brochure that speaks about the values of our community and what we're trying to do here with our momentum that we're gaining. When it comes to momentum, we can talk about it from the perspective of recently posting an economic development RFP for economic development and also a market analysis. That will be closing at the end of this month. It's going to focus not only on economic and retail opportunity across the county and respecting the identity of each of the communities that we have. I like to break it down in terms of the north, the south, the south-south, and sometimes we even have some mid-regions in and around there. Respecting some of the unique identities such as agriculture and some of the opportunities that we all hear about going on the border, but trying to see how we can continue to grow. Also looking at industrial development, recruitment, and retention. This is not intended to duplicate efforts with the likes of the Movida Group, but it is intended to complement and also get additional information that we might not be seeing in those reports currently. It's also going to look at marketing and purchasing power analysis. This is not unique in our community. Sometimes what happens is that we do tend to be a bit of a more of a cash and carry community, or we do tend to have some level of ecotourism or any other types of tourism that comes to our community, and we'd like to be able to capture and see where they are spending their money and where they are coming from as well. And then that leads into the next one that I know is near and dear to some of the commissioners in terms of how do we capitalize and make linkages to the New Mexico Economic Development Department's focus on outdoor recreation. Just last year, Las Cruces hosted the outdoor recreation conference here that talked about the opportunities we have ripe, but we haven't really coalesced around what that would look like. So this seeks to identify where we could start growing out, and then also looking at hotel and hospitality feasibility studies. As y'all learned recently, when you passed the lodger's tax, there's only one active hotel that's in the southern part of the county. So trying to see where there are other opportunities for growth as we continue to expand out. And then above all, forgive me for my misspelling here. Above all, it's going to need to be linked to the BOCC vital conditions and the strategic plan. Also related to is the the Parks, Recreation, and Community Centers Master Planning. Major points of that one related to the scope of work, which also closes on April 30th. It's going to be establishing a plan, vision, goals, and objectives county-wide. It's also going to look at the existing conditions and also have a component for community outreach and engagement. The scope of work asks for an implementation action plan at the 5, 10, and 15-year mark, and also requested it be linked to the vital conditions. This one will also be linked together with the Fairground Master Plan that's underway that I know ACM Weir is actively working on with Director Herrera so that we don't have any contradictory information. Future BOCC items for consideration. We're really talking about a new approach. So one of the things that ACM Lopez will come up and highlight is some of the incubation efforts that are being done, because it's not just about the multi-million-dollar or potential billion-dollar projects in the community, but also seeing how we can foster maybe some of the agricultural incubation in the other parts of the community, as well as looking at future GRT sharing models and garnering your feedback. Again, the theme of these sessions and these work sessions is to get the commission's feedback and direction on some of the things that maybe we haven't had an active discussion on, we haven't had an opportunity to discuss. We want to make sure we get your thoughts and feedback for those that are present in person or on WebEx. So I'll invite ACM Lopez to come in and talk about the other items.
Thank you, Jonathan. Stephen Lopez, Assistant County Manager. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. As Jonathan mentioned, we've got some exciting opportunities ahead of us. The closest one is the development of the Desert Kitchen, which is the old Quonset hut kitchen at the fairgrounds, into a true commercial kitchen that is used for more than just 1 week out of the year during the fair. We've got some really good possibilities in making that a quick rent, short-term rental commercial kitchen for businesses that only need a real space a couple weeks out of the year, such as to make batches of salsa, and they don't need a space that they're leasing year-round and losing money into. So this will provide those opportunities with some upgrades that the commission authorizes in the very near future next week. And then we've had, similarly, opportunities to discuss use of that space with the County Cooperative Extension Service. And the Cooperative Extension Service, Assistant County Manager Weir and Director Robert Herrera and I met with the leader of the Cooperative Extension Service just a couple weeks ago out there. They're extremely excited about being able to use that as a teaching kitchen during spring break labs that they do, as well as during the summer. It's a little late for them, obviously, for the spring break, because that was 2 weeks ago. But they are looking at already programming that space for next year's spring break, and they're already seeing if they can make some adjustments to their summer schedule this year to take advantage of it. They really like the combination of a large open area where students can be taught and where they can do mixing, and then being able to move into a nice open kitchen environment that allows literally dozens of people to be moving around at the same time. We've got, 12 burners on the stove. We'll soon have electric kettles that they'll be able to do large batches in. We've got 3 different sinks. So it really allows a lot of movement out there, and we're really excited about that possibility. And if it succeeds the way it sounds like it could, that really lends the opportunity for discussion of how can we use other county facilities in a similar way to provide these teaching opportunities, to provide these kind of incubator environments or maker spaces that can support our small industries, our small businesses, and literally take somebody from what they do in their home kitchen to being able to do something to make some money, when they can't get their home kitchen to pass commercial standards for a food manufacturing permit, for example. And then on the GRT sharing model, as ACM Macias mentioned, you've passed the GRT consolidation. We now need to start talking about how do you want us to develop programs so we can bring something to you to formally vote on for GRT sharing. Right now, we are not giving an incentive for GRT sharing for people who come in and build new businesses or expand their current businesses. If somebody wants to make an addition to a restaurant, to a small mom and pop grocery store. So the state right now, their standard for what's called large LEDA, and they will cringe at that term because that is not the official term, but that's just how it's referred to often in the industry, is a 50% GRT share. Basically, you come in, you make an improvement, a large capital investment that generates gross receipts taxes, and we will, upon completion of that, they submit for, well, first going into it, they submit an application. We say, yes, your project is eligible. When they are done with it, they submit for reimbursement of whatever the GRT share is. The state's large LEDA is 50%. That seems like a good place for us to start if the board is supportive of that. And basically what it means is we're not losing anything. And that's what unfortunately some communities think. Oh, if we're gonna give them half of our GRT, we're losing out on that money. Well, if they don't expand or they don't build, we never get any of that anyway. And It is much better for the county when we start thinking in terms of property taxes, the long term, to be converting, for example, a vacant property that is generating almost nothing for us right now on property taxes into something that is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars. We will more than make up for anything we lose on the GRT, but we're still getting money that we wouldn't have had if they weren't building, if we're still getting 50% of that GRT. So that's how the GRT sharing works. And again, we're just looking for you all to give us feedback and ideas. Is 50% sound like a good place for us to start? Is that a GRT sharing something you want us to pursue? So with that, happy to take questions, suggestions.
Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts on the 50% GRT share?
I have questions.
Yeah, of course, please, Commissioner
First time
Matters.
I've heard of this. So let me see if I got this right. Does the state give that 50% to the business, or does it come from us, from Doña?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gomeros, that is a good question. And the answer is yes.
To both.
So on the large leader right now, it requires a $350 million construction project to be able to qualify. That's only happened right now once in the state's history, and that was the Intel plant. And in that one, the state gave half of the state's share of GRT share, and the local government agreed to give half of the local government's GRT share. So in Doña County, total unincorporated tax rate is about 6.5%. So for somebody who goes in and puts in a project, if the state and county are participating in that large LIDA, you're looking at about 3.25% of the construction value is what they would be eligible to get back, basically in a rebate. If somebody is coming in and putting in a $350 million project, that is fantastic, and our share of what remains is in the millions still. So the question is, obviously, do we want to participate in the large LIDA at a 50% share, which is the state's maximum they're willing to go to, and they will only go up to whatever you authorize. So if that makes sense on the large LIDA, that's item one. Second is, do we want to, at the local level, still incentivize projects that the state won't contribute to because we know it's the right thing to encourage businesses in our unincorporated areas? And so that would basically be, we only have about 1.9% available on the GRT share, so we'd be giving them back just under 1% of their construction project value. Now, that may not sound like a lot of money, but that makes a difference for a business in being able to put in furnishings, put in kitchen equipment, get their actual payroll started on a project. That can really, we're talking $10,000 makes a difference in your first month of operation. $50,000 makes a huge impact on the equipment you're able to bring in and get ready for sale. So for incentivizing businesses to kind of take that next step and come into the county, there really is value in the GRT share. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So doing this GRT share, when a business applies for this and they receive this rebate, I guess it's a tax rebate. And you were saying like there's individuals are obviously in the community that don't like these incentives for these businesses because they feel that, because I've heard it, or they feel that these businesses, well, there's a lot of traffic due to these businesses, or trucking traffic, and there's road, they're going through the roads and tearing up the roads. But in reality, in the long run, we make back that money that we did plus more that would go into repairing those roads.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Guerreros, that's exactly right. And we make it back multiple times over, especially when we talk about a development on a vacant lot that is bringing in almost nothing on property taxes. And then you suddenly convert it to something that's worth $250,000 that we're able to start bringing in thousands of dollars a year just on the property tax alone, plus all the GRT that we're going to get out of what that business is selling throughout the year. The county comes out much further ahead, which is why other parts of the country have engaged in this model for years. And unfortunately, we are behind the curve, which has been why so much business happens just across the state line in Texas, and we have a hard time attracting those businesses into New Mexico.
So then there would be no issue in getting potholes filled, roads taken care of.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Guerreros, with 700 miles of unpaved roads right now in our inventory and about 650 miles of paved roads, there will always be challenges on getting them all done, but this would absolutely generate additional funds to do that. So it would help us start to catch up on what we have not been able to address in the past.
Thank you. Oh, I do have another question, I'm sorry.
Yes, Commissioner.
What businesses have we done this with before, and how are they doing?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Guerreros, we have never done this before.
Oh.
So now is the time for us to put the program together and then start marketing it to our business community and our potential business community about how we might be able to help them expand. And one of the things that people often forget is if they're able to expand, they're also able to increase payroll. They're able to hire more people, and bringing more jobs into the community also is a huge benefit for us.
Thank you.
So Stephen, you're just looking for kind of a direction of whether or not we support the 50% GRT share? Is that what you're looking for?
We are not asking for any actual action by the board today. We're asking for you to think about it and give us feedback over time so that we can develop a package to bring back to the board for an actual vote.
Okay. So just for some clarification really quick, and maybe it'll just help anyone that's watching. So we have a $100 million project that is coming into our community. $100 million, the GRT off of that is 8 million something,
So if,
million and change.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for using a nice, round, easy-to-do math number.
You're welcome.
So $100 million would generate $6.5 million in GRT in the unincorporated area.
So then we would just be doing 50% of that total.
We would actually only be doing 50% of the county's share, which is 1.9% or 1.9 million. So that $100 million project, we're looking at about $950,000.
Okay, so for every 100 million, it's under $1 million.
Correct.
Cool. I'm down. Love it. Easy to understand. Thank you. Commissioners, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm a little confused because I think you're talking large, I think when we're talking large projects, and then I think we talked small projects. And I guess on the large project, I thought we were talking on the large LIDA, which then the state is going to be providing potential, so it's more than just the 1%. There's the state GRT, right? Am I correct? Or am I missing? Because like I said, and the reason I ask is because I think looking at this on two different levels. I think on the large projects, I absolutely agree. I think that can make a huge impact on large projects. Small projects, well, I'm not against it. I think we should be looking at other projects because I think even if you take $250,000, and I know, and maybe because I'm not a business owner, and I know I can look to the person to my left here that can probably guide me on this, but if you have a $250,000 project, you're only getting $2,500 back. To me, that's not as impactful as potentially us looking at trying to take some of our reserve and creating a small business fund that we could do low interest loans. to be able to potentially, allow a smaller business to be able to, especially with the interest rates that they are, maybe potentially find some better opportunities to grow. And I think, like I said, that in my mind, that might impact more. But I think the other part is that if we were to do that and have more discussion about it, I'd wonder do we want to potentially identify certain market targets, not necessarily all small businesses, and maybe I'm wrong by saying that, but in my mind, if we're trying to spur certain growth within the county, then, can we, and essentially it's incentivize certain types of businesses to be able to open? I don't know. And the reason I think about it is we look at, and I know this is going to be something on a larger scale, as we look for activities and things to do for families, or other types of jobs that we're looking for in the community. Could we, is there a potential, rather, like you said, to try to target those types of markets or industry?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, yes, yes, and yes. So let me go back to your first one on large LIDA. The example the chair gave was a $100 million project. Unfortunately, the way the state statute is constructed, that doesn't qualify for large LIDA, so the state wouldn't contribute. It's got to be $350 million. At $350 million, I mean, we're definitely talking game-changing dollar amounts there, with the state then throwing in 2% on their side, 2% of the GRT. So yes, I think so far, all the heads seem to be nodding in the right direction there on large LIDA. On the small side, that's where the state doesn't contribute. And again, you're right that it's not as impactful at $2,500. With that said, from what I've heard from the business community over the last year, they are on very tight margins. Literally $2,500 a month or $2,500 can make the difference in whether they can go for another month or not in a lean time. So there is some value there, especially on getting started with something. But I definitely agree with your suggestion that we need to look beyond just GRT share, and that something like a loan program, low interest loan program, is something to consider. We'll be conducting an evaluation of fire stations over the next 4 to 6 months, and bringing a plan based on outside expertise of where we should have fire stations, for maybe we need to build new stations that better serve where our population is versus where it was 30 years ago when some of these stations were built. That's going to give us an opportunity for you all to discuss how do we repurpose some of those buildings, and maybe some of those align with what you're talking about also of, can we do a low, and the state law does allow this under the LIDA statutes, you could lease some of that property for as little as $1 a month in order to incentivize specific businesses to go into some of those locations. And so, yes, I think that all can absolutely play into it. A loan program, or at least packaging together existing loan programs so that a business owner can find them that may not otherwise know what's out there.
Awesome, thank you. And I think I'm definitely open to trying things we haven't. And I think, like as Commissioner Gametos asked, has this worked in the past? We know this is completely new, and I want us to be able to start thinking outside the box, or and I think this is one of those ways. And I just want to continue that as we start to look at what tools we have in the toolbox that we've just never touched before. And I think those are, given the nature of where we're located, being right on the border with Mexico and Texas, we have, and I'm not saying that any other part of New Mexico that we're unique, but I think we have very unique challenges because of our location, and we have to find ways that we have to compete. So I appreciate, like I said, I'm not going to I say let's move forward. Let's look at these ideas and see what makes sense for us, because I think whatever we can do to foster growth is absolutely important. I did have one question on the kitchen project. And I guess my question is trying to understand. I love the idea of using them as a teaching kitchen and working with the agricultural extension and figuring, so that way we can use our spaces. Because I think, and you hit the nail. You were going where I was going when you mentioned that we could potentially try to see can we use our other facilities like this? So this could be kind of our pilot project. But my question is that along with looking at the GRT, if we were to look at allowing a rental or investing in the kitchen to allow for businesses to come in and use that for large scale or for their uses, is it the right use of our funds? If that's something, do we know there's a need for it? Because like I said, the teaching aspect, I love, and I completely support. I just want to make sure that if we're going to be investing more money with hoping we get certain businesses without knowing that there are those opportunities, it just seems like that could potentially be us investing in something that may not have a return. And not that I know we're not returns. I just don't want to put money in and then not be used for what we had hoped it would be used for.
Right. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, great question about, is there really a market? We have been talking with a salsa company who has this exact need. And so we would be making back the county's investment fairly quickly. Okay. But I think to your broader discussion point, as we have discussions, especially during the retreat, about what we can do to improve quality of life and potential recreational opportunities throughout the county, this is also something we may want to consider in those facilities, is do we incorporate some spaces that can be used as maker space or something similar?
And I love that. And I think that's the kind of thing that I think that's why I think when you think of how do we, maker spaces where we can get people interested in doing some of that I love, because like I said, I think we don't have, if there are here in Doña County or in Las Cruces, there's not really a whole lot if there are. So I love that idea. But I appreciate it. I think the only other suggestion and thought is, could we potentially look at, maybe this is shameless, but could we, if we were to have a partnership with someone that's doing that, could we potentially try to find a way that we could have them essentially have a reference, jointly or somehow built with made with the cooperation of Doña County or the logo, so that we can start getting additional type of getting advertisement out there into not just the community, but if this essentially goes elsewhere and people see it, they start to think of Doña County. Oh, where's that at? And start looking and trying to figure out how do we start opening more avenues for other economic growth or future residents.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, I think that's a great idea. In fact, we just saw an agreement come through yesterday that uses that exact same thing, and it's from the Art and Public Spaces at the state level program, where they require the artist still maintains their rights to sell that artwork or images of that artwork later on, but they have to then put in partnership with, or this project was developed due to. And so that is something that just really does make sense, and there's existing concept out there that we can pattern after.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Lopez.
So thank you all for those suggestions. I think that's exactly the kind of ideas that we're looking for. So as you go out and talk to people in your communities, please let us know any other ideas of how we can engage and support economic development. And with that, there's one more bullet you can see there on the screen, and that is other partnership models. Something that is out there, and right now we're just looking for a temperature check from the board. There are communities, other states, where if somebody comes with, there are people out there, I'm going to call them brokers right now, just to give them a name. There are brokers who will go out and find people that are willing to invest into big projects in communities or sometimes just donate funds. Some of the successful models that we are hearing about give a finder's fee to those brokers based on what they bring in. So if they bring in a $10 million contribution to the county, there's a finder's fee of 3%, 4%. If we want to go this route, we're going to need to really vet it and make sure that it's legal, that everything's being covered. I'm not terribly concerned because the general question about anti-donation is there value for the county? And I'm pretty sure we would agree $10 million is value. It's just going to be making sure that we have everything lined up, developing what's the RFP process, because we can't just lock in on a single broker. We're going to have to give all brokers equal opportunity. But just looking for kind of a temperature check, is this something that the board would like the county administration to invest some more time into exploring and bring back some more firm ideas? Is it causing immediate heartache and questions at the same time?
Yes. No. Well, yes, not no, but yes. No is not my answer. But something that I would really like to see happen and a partnership that I would like to see grow, and it kind of goes on with what Commissioner Sanchez brought up about kind of doing those small business loans. And as someone that has like had experience in that, and I don't know if we're ever going to beat federal SBA loan guidelines and their interest rates, but something that I would like to see grow here is our relationship with Arrowhead. I know without Arrowhead, my business would not be what it is today because they walked me through every single step of how to start a small business loan, how to write your business plan, your model of what you're going to do. So I would like to see some kind of relationship grow there, and kind of talking about those maker spaces and, you know, creating these areas that many people can use. I would like to see how they envision that and if they see the need, because they're those individuals that are kind of going out there. So maybe even getting with the Hispanic Chamber, Green Chamber, Chamber of Commerce, you know, having a little round table going on to figure out the best ways forward for that. Mostly because I really do think that there's a great need in our community for that, and it would be really awesome to see that kind of flourish for small businesses. I know in the past we've talked about doing like a year free for their business permit, getting them in the door, talking to them, telling them about what we can offer. But also, I don't think a lot of people go towards the government and or government entity for help. They don't see this as a place of collaboration. So if there's a way that we can kind of change that narrative to show that we do have opportunities, we do have resources, we do have the skill and mindset to help you get where you need to go, I think that would be really great to see. So whatever way forward that is, I would definitely support it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Other suggestions, concerns?
Mr. Lopez, I say yes. I think depending on what we're able to find out, I think it could eventually potentially have us evaluate whether the money we spend in memberships of other organizations is worth it, or whether it could be better spent in having finder's fees.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, duly noted.
That was a great idea. I really like that. Cool. Anything else?
Go ahead.
Commissioners, our Chair and Commissioner Jonathan Macias again. I just wanted to share that we're already a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of that community stakeholder engagement. County Manager Andrews has been actively working to set a county-wide stakeholder engagement for economic development in general. That's going to be taking place on April 9th, starting at 9 a.m. And so we'll broach and add that to the discussion points in terms of how do we get the information out there and bring back in some of the Arrowhead as well as the chambers. I believe they were on the list at large. So
Beautiful, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
I did have and just another thought as we're talking, talking this. I want to say, I want to give some kudos out to our social media team and our management team. I know I mentioned this to the ACMs last week, but having that one on the website for that consolidated all the information for those that were affected by the recent shooting and killings and murders in Young Park. But I really appreciated that we were able to use the counties as that one stop that it included multiple resources. And my hope is, and this is where I'm going to bring this back, is I would love for us to figure out, is there an opportunity for us as we look at economic development so that if somebody is looking at what do I need to do if I'm in Doña County or I'm in Las Cruces, that we have one page that they go to that kind of helps direct them and makes it very easy. You know, I think as the chairman mentioned, I know this is maybe not specifically what he was thinking, but I think if we make it easier for people to know how to navigate the processes and understand if, you know, where maybe in some entities in some states where the county is the overarching authority, but in our case we're not, we have to defer to the municipalities. You know, if we make it very easy for them to be able to come in and understand, oh, okay, I'd like to establish a business in the county, or I want to establish a business in the city. Who do I go and talk to, and how do I kick off the process? I think if we can start using that, our voice to be that for the county, whether that's in Las Cruces, Anthony, Mesilla, whatever it may be, I think that'd be amazing. Because I just think it was, the reason I bring it up is because I thought seeing somebody share and then the community share on social media the page from Doña County, and they knew they could find all the resources on that one page, was just, it was excellent. And so I know, like I said, if we can do more of that, I think it would help us, help our businesses, help our residents find things easier. So, but I appreciate that effort. It just, like I said, if once I saw that, it just starts to, the light bulb goes off of what else can we do with this.
Chair and Commissioner Sanchez, that is noted, and it is something we can share with our Economic Development Administrator, Ms. Carter. I think with her time that she's been at the county, she's been evaluating the entire landscape of what it looks like to navigate, because although we have many boundaries and jurisdictions here, economic development shouldn't be seeing those, and we should be able to, as we've talked mid last year, opportunities that we identify for other parts of the county doesn't mean loss for us. It just means perhaps they start in another part of the region and then maybe they grow as they continue to incubate, or they continue to see what their future looks like in the county. Chair, were you going to say anything else? No. And then ACM Lopez, I know there's one other thing. When we talk about economic development, we talk about how things start young and how we are able to get people into the thinking about career advancement early on. And so I think something has come up lately that Mr. Lopez wanted to update everybody on.
Thank you again, Mr. Macias. Good to talk with you again, Commissioners. Stephen Lopez, Assistant County Manager. Just wanted to make sure all of the commissioners are aware of where we're at right now with what has been called the Summer Internship Program. That is the language in the state, at the state. We've called it the Summer Enrichment Internship Program, SEIP, here locally. Over the last 4 years, that program has been in place. The first 3 years, the state funded it with money from ARPA. Last year, it was funded out of the state's actual budget. And this year, it has not been funded yet. And unfortunately, that has put us in a really difficult position. Last year, it was a 30-day session, so we had answers 30 days sooner. Right now, it is in House Bill 2 in the budget as a line for $10 million statewide for summer internship programs. The challenges are, A, it is specific to summer internship, and B, the state budget doesn't fund until July 1. And at that point in time, we are almost done with summer break for Las Cruces Public Schools because of their academic year calendar. literally leaves 3 weeks left before they go back to school. And then we've got 4th of July holiday in there. ACM Macias has been trying to get answers out of the Cabinet Secretary for Public Education for quite a while now. Our lobbyists have been reaching out, trying to get answers. Is this something that's going to go forward? And we've even had participation from the Chamber of Commerce. Debbie Moore has been pushing it. We've really asked for the ability to partner with the school districts so that these school districts can align students' career interests, which they're already working on academically, with an internship opportunity. The school districts have all expressed interest in this, but again, we just have no answers from the state at this point in time. There was a meeting last week with the governor over the tragedy at Young Park, and this was brought up as something the governor could push more money into. We do want to make sure that there's 100% transparency on this. The summer internship program has never been tied to crime reduction. And none of the suspects who have been arrested for that tragedy ever participated in the summer internship program. If people are looking for a way to make an impact on crime, this tying it to the summer internship program is probably not, I don't want to use the term honest, but it's not fair to people who are grieving and looking for answers on how do we address violent crime. So just wanted to mention that there are, it has been mentioned in the same breath as what do we do about crime? And again, the violent crime situation is much bigger than just offering jobs. We've been offering jobs, and that did not prevent what happened. And it didn't happen during the summer. Obviously, it wasn't, these people weren't there. But is there value in the internship program? County administration 100% believes the answer is yes, but we do need to know what are the goals of the program and how can we make it successful? Last year, we had a couple hundred students drop out during the course of the program, either because they didn't like their pairing with the job, they just decided it wasn't for them. And then I personally, in the interim role, took a lot of complaints from parents who were not happy with placements. Many people have indicated, you know, there's value still in a job you don't like because you learn what you don't like. And definitely that is true. But if we want to design a long-term lasting program, we need to actually start from what is it that we want to accomplish and who are the appropriate partners in that, and get the state to engage in those discussions. And one of the things I kind of hinted at earlier is the current language right now is in the statute for funding this says summer internship. And one of the things that commissioners from last year may realize, we talked about the initial impact for this was how do we help students who are in low-income families bring some money in to help out the family while also learning a job skill. If that is indeed what we want to do, those families have a need 12 months out of the year, not just during the summer. And they may benefit more from us having a year-round program, and where a student can go in and work, say, Friday nights, work on Saturday, and be able to actually contribute to the family budget throughout the year, rather than just for the weeks of the summer period. So we wanted to, bring to you that we still have nothing from the state. HB2, as of last night, still has not been signed. And the governor does have the ability to line item veto, so we can never make assumptions as to what will stay in the budget. And Jonathan's bringing me, let's see.
Chair and Commission, so just for reference, as ACM Lopez gets up to date on the latest that just came in, we did receive the letter that was forwarded shortly before the start of this meeting by Commissioner Chaparro. I'm not sure if Commissioner Chaparro is on the line and would like to share a little bit more about her support for this, but it is a letter that is signed by the 3 superintendents in the community. At least one of those superintendents, to my knowledge, was present for last Friday's conference with the governor. And to summarize it, they are all indicating that they are supporters and that they are actively identifying candidates within their school district that might be able to be considered, eligible for any potential future. That is a great starting point. If the school districts are looking and they're able to, they might be able to take it on if we're able to work out a fiscal sponsorship relationship, and then they would be able to take it on in whole and part with the active parts of their school districts that they have. I know many of them already run summer school programs, so this would be an opportunity for them to reskill and upskill and also make those linkages with their curriculum. I know one of the things that we've identified in the past is what works and what doesn't. When these programs are actively working in other parts of the state and the country, they are actually tied to workforce initiatives and workforce solutions. There is something known as the Workforce Innovations Act, which is also known as WIOA. And what that means is for eligible households, sometimes they are able to unlock funding in addition to what they would make in the summer of upwards of $10,000 for what are known as wraparound services. And when you work with a workforce entity like that, they're able to also identify with the relationships that they have established with businesses where they can actually put them into experiential learning. From somebody that used to work with the former county manager, Macias, this is something that we had highlighted and we had hoped that he had would be able to bring on board, but wasn't quite able to be seen and bring to fruition. We'd also hoped that Mr. Macias would have been able to have worked more with the judicial system given his background in it and his former status as a judge, and that didn't come to fruition either, but it's something that maybe the DA's office would be willing to take on if they want to commit to a number of potential interns that they might be able to take over there. So just wanted to relay the latest.
And with that, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll go ahead and read the letter that came in. It is addressed to the Doña Ana County Commission. Dear Honorable Commissioners, on behalf of Gadsden Independent School District, Hatch Valley Public Schools, and Las Cruces Public Schools, we are writing to express our strong support for the proposed 2025 Summer Work Internship Program for high school students across Doña Ana County. This initiative aligns with our district's missions to prepare every student for success in college, career, and life by offering valuable hands-on experience in real-world job settings. It is particularly important that this program prioritizes access for students who face financial barriers. Many of the students in our communities are eager to gain work experience, but must often forego these opportunities to contribute to household income or because they lack access to transportation and other resources. A paid internship program would provide a much-needed bridge for these students, offering both practical experience and financial support during the summer months. By focusing on equity and inclusion, this program has the power to open doors for students who might not otherwise have access to professional development opportunities. It will not only enhance their job readiness, but also reinforce a sense of self-confidence, responsibility, and future vision. As district leaders, we are committed to collaborating with Doña Ana County in support of this program. We are prepared to help identify eligible students, particularly those with financial need, and to work with school counselors, families, and community partners to ensure broad participation and success. We look forward to working together to continue this partnership for our community. Sincerely, Travis Dempsey, Michael Chavez, and Ignacio Ruiz. So again, that is very much in line with exactly what we heard from the school districts last year as we asked if they would be interested in being deeper engaged with us in this effort. Let me hand this off. So the question comes down to, it is now April, and this is not an April Fool's joke. The state budget still has not been approved. So we really are kind of stuck right now. In the past, as you all know, this was a very large lift by county departments, HR taking the brunt of it, but finance taking huge hits, and all the other county departments trying to work things around the calendar. The question is how we can best do something maybe this summer. Maybe it's a retool, realignment with the school districts, and maybe it's offering for those students some specific job skills training, like, hey, we're going to pay you to come in and learn how to write a resume. We're going to pay you to come in and learn how to interview, and help start building some skills, and then take this time to also develop what this looks like long-term. But love to hear any suggestions from the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez, would it all be possible, and I understand, I think the effort that it takes, I would say Herculean effort by the county to put on the program. Is there any potential that we could essentially almost do a change in how we structure this to where we become a fiduciary agent and work with the local school districts, and be able to, and I don't know if we can share our experience and our knowledge over the last couple of years of how to do this, but allow them to be able to do it. And I don't know, I just don't know how, I don't know how they would manage the pay piece of it, because I know that was all handled by us. But I figure, if there's an opportunity that then they could manage it with, and us sharing that information and us being the fiduciary agent from the state to them, if we potentially get money from the state, that I think in some ways, not only does it allow them the opportunity to manage it and takes that burden off of us, but then I'd even be curious to understand if I think I've preached in the past how frustrating the silos in our state are, and if we could even get someone like the Workforce Solutions or the local area workforce development office to do exactly like you said, work on some skills, like where they spend, even in preparation, or 4 hours a week doing these type of education pieces. And maybe that's a requirement that we work with them or help them work on. But I think if we were to be able to potentially take that, maybe if we take that burden off of us and the school districts are willing to own it, and it sounds like some of the conversations I've had with them, they sound like they are. Maybe that's the way to go. And I'll just throw this out for commissioners. It's just funny because on Friday, I had two conversations about this. One with a representative from the Hatch Valley Schools, but the funniest one is I was traveling back on business from Phoenix, and the person that sat next to me, we got in a conversation, talked about, what do you do? So it was funny. She just happened to be from Las Cruces also, and she mentioned that she hires, or her business hires, internships or interns from the program. And so it's just funny how the reach of this program really has made a difference for the businesses and for the youth. But I just thought it was a funny story that you just happen to sit on somebody from on a flight, and this program is the thing that comes up in the conversation. So anyhow, but yeah, like I said, if there's a way, I'm supportive of it. I understand. I think the also how you mentioned this isn't associated with crime, but I know it does bring the opportunity for our youth to be able to learn, to be able to earn money, and it also helps our businesses where they can. So I'm supportive. If there is a way, I understand the very truncated timeline, but if there's a way we can work with the school districts, I'm supportive of it. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, thank you very much. And I think that is exactly where county administration has been trying to work with the school districts, what our intent was. The Chamber of Commerce is certainly supportive of that exact model that you mentioned, of the school districts being the ones who, they're closest to the students. They know the students. They already know the students' interests, and partnering them with people in the business community like the Chamber can make this really successful in the long term, and we can be the fiduciary. So that kind of brings us back to, with no state budget yet, what can we do to encourage and support our school districts? And again, we can't vote. This is a work session, but today's the deadline for next week's session. So if you would like us to get something on the agenda for next week, to say we want to, and I'm just throwing this out there, not suggesting it. Lucio has left the room, so I don't have to worry about him having, oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Lucio, plug your ears here. If you want to say that the county is going to invest X amount of money out of reserves to get this program off the ground, that is something that we can prepare for and bring to you next week for actual action. The last year, when I was sitting in the interim position, I had discussions individually with commissioners to let you know that we were taking a risk because the state would not sign a contract with us saying that they would reimburse us for expenses incurred prior to July 1. They would not go there because statutorily, the budget starts July 1. And I think that's a real thing that we need to realize.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Gametos.
so I was listening to the letter that you read, and the school or whoever wrote it stated that they're willing to identify the youth for this program, but that's all I heard. I didn't hear anything about them stating that they were going to take over, that they would like to implement this program themselves. I feel that we do need to have a discussion with them.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm not sure where that noise is coming from, but
To have that discussion, the county with the superintendent and their HR, their personnel, and seeing what they are willing to do. Because if we say, oh, yes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fund some money and maybe start this little program, and they decide, well, you know what, after looking, within the school and, discussing, we can't seem to fulfill that. I feel that there has to be that discussion first. Also, my question was, what's the definition for summer in that bill or that state,
Yeah.
that statute? What do they consider the summer time? Is there from this date to this date, or do they just say summer? Because summer, if we go according to the calendar, right? Summer ends at a certain time. So, that's another thing. How do we, distinguish summer? I think summer starts in May, right? I'm not too sure. Is it June? I'm not too sure. Is it June?
right.
Look at that. So then that, if we were to go according to that, right, then June 21st. So I would like to find out about what's the actual language for that summer, and, what's defined as summer for them. And then see with the school district, what is it that they are willing to take? My concern, and I know that I think there was like over 1,500 kids employed last year, was it?
The head count was 1,500, but again, not all of them participated for the entire program.
And, that's understandable it's just like even as adults, right? We go into a job, we're there, and it's like, no, this is not for me, whether it's the job itself, the environment. So, I don't blame these students, and I kind of give kudos to those students and say, no, this is not for me, instead of sticking around and just drudging through but 6 weeks is 6 weeks, it's quick, but to them, that's like a lifetime. So I really do feel that the students in Las Cruces, you have more transportation. In the rural areas where our district is, chairman and mine, there's not much transportation, and a lot of these students that do need that type of income, and maybe, they only have one vehicle, and that's used by the parent that's actually going to work, or they don't have another vehicle, so maybe the school can work something out with Boone Transportation during that time, and maybe, having these students work with businesses that are within the community, so they're not having to drive to Las Cruces to come and get a job. There was a time where Boone did work out with Gadsden way back in the time when I used to go to swimming lessons as a kid. And they went and they picked up all the students within Doña, and they drove us to Gadsden High School, and we paid $1 to go swim. And we were taught how to swim. So, something like that, that was wonderful because there was no way my parents were going to be able to do that for us. And I lived in Chamberino, and that's not too far of a difference, distance, but, we picked up kids from San Miguel, La Mesa, Mesquite. So, I would like to see that type of collaboration as well for this program to help those kids that need that type of transportation. And so, I think this is a great program, but I think there's some kinks or bugs that need to be worked out. And I think it's going to be a program that's going to be needing, tweaks here and there until it kind of gets smoothed out. But I think to jump in it right now and think about doing some funding, I think, we are in limbo. We don't have definite answers from the school yet. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gameros, great points. And yeah, I think you are definitely identifying that was a carefully worded letter. And you're right. The commitment was not 100%. I will say in conversations that we have had over the last year with the school districts, verbally they are much more willing to commit to actually doing stuff. I think they are feeling the same time pressure though right now that we are, of they've got literally 1 full month and 1 partial month left in the school year. And to stand up a huge effort may be a challenge. We are happy to engage with them individually again to see if to what level they might be able to commit. Maybe it's not 900 students from Las Cruces Public Schools, but maybe they can take on 150, 200. That's certainly better than nothing. And your points on transportation are spot on. Gadsden Independent School District was the least served by this program last year because of transportation. We could not find jobs in places close to the students that they could easily get to. And you're absolutely right. The school district's relationship with the school bus companies like Boone Transportation can be key in making something like this work long-term. We have actually tried in the past to hire the school bus companies for other things, and those school buses can only be used for school-related activities by state statute. And by bringing the school districts in, that allows for potential use of that resource.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
so the end of summer is September 23rd. So if we're going by that summer date, there's a possibility that if the schools are willing to do this, they can still do this, starting, in June and ending September 23rd. And even though the kids are in school, they can do, the after-school jobs, And I like the idea as well, like maybe we can go ahead and, I think every student needs to learn how to do resumes, how to interview, how to maybe, they're going to be going to work and how to manage their money, teaching them a course in how to handle a checking account, how to budget, how to reconcile, stuff like that, that I know the high school has like some kind of like home ec, or I don't know what they call it now, where you learn that kind of stuff, but of course you sign up for that class. But these students, that would be great for them to kind of learn something like that as well. Thank you, sorry.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gameros, thank you for those suggestions on topics. Yes, some of the school districts call it personal finance, but yes, exactly. Any other suggestions, direction on next steps for this besides talking to the school districts?
In the words of my children, which they learn in school, we need some synergy on this. We need to synergize. But no, I think this is a great opportunity to kind of start that conversation of what we need this program to be for our students, not what it has been. And I know that there's some real concerns about what this has been in the past. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. It's not like any of us up here think it's horrible. It's just we need it to be well thought out and well planned. So I'm looking forward to having a future conversation on this. And I appreciate Commissioner Gametos' story because I think that's exactly right. So anything else, commissioners? Nothing? Thank you. Mr. Lopez. Okay, next. Oh,
Next, we're actually going to switch over to Jamie Michael.
let's do it. Welcome, Ms. Michael.
Good morning, Jamie Michael, County's Health and Human Services Department Director. Pleased to be here today and share some information with you about the mental health initiatives and services that our department provides to the community. We are anywhere between 50 and 60 employees in our department, and most are mental health first aiders. So on an individual level, they all support their community, their family, their friends as being mental health first aiders, and mental health is baked into most of the work we do in our department. With me today is Pam Woods. I think all of you know Pam Wood, who is our Assistant Director. Thank you, Pam. She also helped set up some of those projects at Arrowhead that you were talking about. She was at NMSU during that time, yes. And I have our 3 division managers, Eric Bransford, Chelo Guerrero, and Roberto Godina, who are all here and can answer questions as we move through this presentation. This is a diagram that shows kind of the key programs and projects in our department, and the ones with the thick red line around them are pretty much solely focused on some type of behavioral health goals and objectives. So their primary focus is behavioral health. I do use mental health and behavioral health interchangeably, but technically what I mean is behavioral health, because when I use the terminology, I'm talking about serious mental illness and substance use disorders under the behavioral health umbrella. So I will try to be specific if it's just serious mental illness, but most of the time it's behavioral health, which includes the whole span. And then the others with the smaller, the more narrow border, they're not primarily focused on behavioral health, but some aspect of their work is connected to behavioral health services. So one of the most impactful things that we are able to do is provide funding to providers in the community that provide direct care, direct treatment services to people in the community. This is primarily funded through the Healthcare Assistance Program, but we also have other funding sources because we have learned over time, especially if someone is experiencing a behavioral health crisis, it's not the best time to ask them to bring their tax returns and their utility bill and all of their paperwork, which is required for the healthcare assistance or indigent program. So we try to supplement and also include some other funding that has fewer restrictions. Again, still the payer of last resort, but not necessarily asking people to go through the entire enrollment process. So these are the primary contracted providers, and each year there is over 3,000 encounters for a direct behavioral health service to an individual, and the contract amount is about the 2.3. 1.4 of that goes to the Crisis Triage Center. So it can be a little misleading, but please, the biggest chunk of that is for the Crisis Triage Center. And on that list, there are the FQHCs, which all have contracts with us. We encourage them to not just provide behavioral health, but to provide integrated care. So primary care and behavioral health, treating the entire person. You also see a few on there that are for specifically funded by the local DWI program and specifically for people who are being supervised for DWI-related crimes. And then obviously Summit Behavioral Health Care and the Crisis Triage Center, again, the largest piece of the funding. We also do a lot of work around substance use prevention. Again, this is a key area in our department because the local DWI program funds a lot of this substance abuse work. And about a third, just over a third of our employees are funded by the local DWI program. So it is a good chunk of employees that are dedicated to this type of work. The local DWI program provides treatment. We have 2 specific contractors that provide the treatment. We also have the court compliance team. So those are made up primarily of compliance officers who provide supervised probation for people who have been convicted of DWI or other alcohol-related crimes. They not only provide the supervision and reporting back to the courts, but they provide a lot of resource and navigation services for their clients. Prevention, direct primary prevention happens in schools. There are school-based education programs, and then the community resource center activities. One, I think, important highlight that Eric has been able to celebrate this year related to the school-based education. We went through, and we're in the process of an initiative internally for our Department of Professional Development initiative called a Learning-Centered Organization. So we are changing the way we develop and design and deliver curricula. We're changing the way we design and operate meetings and really looking at how to be more learning-centered with it. So this school-based substance use prevention program, which is several weeks, primarily in freshman high school classes, we've always done a pre and post test to measure knowledge change, behavior change, attitude changes. And in general, prior to us redesigning the curricula in past years, there was a 7% increase in knowledge change, which was good. 7% of the students learned something from the time that we invested. After going through this internal professional development and really redesigning the way we deliver the curricula, there was a 40% change in knowledge from pre-test to post-test. So that was a fantastic result to see kind of the immediate result of all of our efforts with that. And our team has done a fantastic job with really looking at how we design and deliver different curricula. We also focus on opioid and polysubstance use prevention, again, primarily because we have grant funding related to that. It's focused on a lot of collaboration because there are several different organizations in the community that do overdose prevention. And our first action was to bring everyone together so we can coordinate and not duplicate. But we also do direct overdose prevention education and distribute Narcan, which is the life-saving medication for someone experiencing an opioid overdose. And in 2024, there were almost 2,000 kits distributed and almost 400 people trained in that course. We also have a more community-facing program called Nuestras Emociones, and the intent is to reduce stigma related to mental illness and to increase access to services. Again, most of our employees in our department have been trained in the National Mental Health First Aid, and we conduct these trainings for people in the community. We conduct them in English and Spanish. We conduct the mental health first aid for kind of the general public, and then we also have one specific for adults that work with young people. So there's also a youth mental health first aid. The youth mental health first aid trainings last year, we conducted 9 trainings and certified 74 people. In the adult mental health first aid, we conducted 11 trainings and certified 129 people. Those are very popular classes, and we're pleased to be able to continue to provide those free of charge to people in our community. We also received a certification and supported other people in the community to become certified instructors for the SAMHSA's Trauma-Informed in the Criminal Justice System training, and have conducted with our partners, have conducted several of those, including with folks in our detention center and across the different court systems. We do a lot of 988 outreach. 988 is probably one of the most significant pieces of legislation that we've had in several decades. It creates a parallel system to 911 just for people experiencing a behavioral health emergency. And 911 took decades to be fully implemented. We're just 3 years into 988, and most people already have access to 988, again, in several languages and several different ways to connect with the crisis counselors through 988. So we do a lot of education and outreach related to that resource. And then we also have a program called Connect Doña. It's a general resource and referral system. It's primarily an online platform backed up by support from community health workers. It provides connection to everything from utilities and housing to dental care to behavioral health. So there's a whole variety, but we did focus on behavioral health providers to make sure they were part of the system. We also work on a national initiative called Stepping Up. This was a resolution passed by the County Commission many years ago, and it's focused on jail diversion. The primary programs that we operate under this initiative include the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Program, the jail-based medication for opioid use disorders, or MOUD. We also have a jail reentry program that includes navigation services and the MOUD treatment, along with support for the local competency diversion program. And then you see there the up-and-coming transitional supportive housing program. So all of these, again, are aimed at reducing the number of people who have a serious mental illness or substance use disorder and end up incarcerated instead of connected to treatment. We also work with a variety of organizations in the community through the work that we do with committees. And we have an employee who is, her full-time job is to help coordinate all the different committee meetings. And we have, this is just a kind of a sample of some of the committees, again, that contribute to the overall behavioral health initiatives in our community. The Wellness Institute is a group of local healthcare agencies and social service agencies that are looking to transform the way healthcare is delivered and really use that delivery system to impact public health outcomes. They serve as the Health Council, again, designated by the Board of County Commissioners as the entity that serves as the local health council. They have a subcommittee focused specifically on substance use and looking at the continuum of care. Oftentimes, if someone is suffering from a substance use disorder, a provider, a physician may say 30-day inpatient, because that's sometimes all they know. That's kind of the most familiar, but it's one of the least accessible types of treatment, and there's a whole continuum of treatment that someone with a substance use disorder that can be effective for someone. So we're doing a lot of outreach and education, so more providers and people understand that full continuum. We also have the Opioid 360 Plus Committee, again, bringing together all the agencies that are doing work around opioid overdose, plus some of the polysubstance use, because we know that it's oftentimes not just one substance use disorder. With work through FYI and at their request, we reconvened a crisis response work group that includes the Crisis Triage Center, FYI, the city and county first responders, representatives from 911 and 988. Again, just looking at the one piece in the behavioral health system that is crisis response. And we just initiated this committee again to bring together all of those folks and really try to make sure there's a coordinated crisis response in our community. And then, as you know, we have the Opioid Settlement Advisory Council, and they are working diligently to bring recommendations and an action plan to you all so we can invest the opioid settlement funds. And then the Psychiatric Residency Development Steering Committee. This, again, was based on a County Commission resolution looking at workforce development specifically for the behavioral health field. This psychiatric residency program is going to be sponsored by the University of New Mexico. They operate many residency programs, and they're very interested in supporting our local psychiatric residency program. So the resident would spend the first year in Albuquerque at UNM, and then the additional 3 years at different facilities throughout Doña County. It really is it's a unique model because it will include outpatient services at La Clinica, which is an FQHC, and inpatient services at Mesilla Valley Hospital, and hopefully touch a whole variety of agencies in our community. Because it's unique, the funding model is a little challenging, so any support you all can give us in encouraging UNM to continue to support this, even though the funding model is different than some of their other residency programs, will be appreciated. And we do have representatives from UNM coming down on, I think it's April 17th, so please watch your email because I may be inviting you to a meeting with some of the folks from UNM so we can demonstrate our community's support and desire for this and really let them know that we're serious about this partnership with them. If all things work out, the application for that residency program will be submitted to the national accreditation body in September. Then they go through an approval process, so we'll know by the 1st of 2026, and then be able to start recruiting residents at this time-ish next year.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question, Jamie. And I know you, like I said, I think we'd be glad to meet with representatives, but would it at all, to help show that level of commitment or anything like that, would it all just make sense for us to pass like a resolution or anything, just basically saying this is where the county commission is and we absolutely support this? Or I don't know, I'm just trying to see what, if we can figure out that way to partner with UNM, what might, obviously, you know, face-to-face says a lot, but, you know, is there more we can do? Because, I mean, that would be amazing if we can get that over the finish line, because I know it's something you've been working on for years.
It has been years. Yes, Commissioner Sanchez, and I would like the resolution to be broader than just the psychiatric residency program. There's also a proposal in the community to create a graduate medical education consortium. So whether it's family medicine, internal medicine, psychiatry, our community looks at all of that graduate medical education collectively under a consortium. Memorial Medical Center is interested, Burrell is interested. We're hoping that we can get the other hospitals interested, so that way everyone who participates in graduate medical education communicates. So I think it would be fantastic if we have a resolution somehow endorsing or stating the county's support for that type of consortium in our community.
And I figured the baby steps, if we could get this, you know, like you're saying, the psychiatric residency, at least, it's just trying to start that relationship with UNM, because I think I think there would definitely be, given the dearth of medical providers, if we could find a way to bring that, or even their maybe even grow to where they could potentially have a small campus to provide specialty services at a minimum, you know, something of that nature. But it would be amazing. But I think if we can try to give support, at least I'd be open to it. I can't speak for the commissioners, but I would love for us to take a look at it, because like I said, if we can do that, I think it would potentially, like you're kind of saying, it could potentially be an avenue to open those doors for us that we've just have struggled to be able to get. So I'd be, whatever support you need, I'd love to take a look at and figure out how we get that voice behind it so they can hear us.
Thank you, absolutely, and you're right. Our community may not have all of the different types of providers to be faculty for the residency programs, but UNM does, and they're a state-funded institution, and they are now very, they seem to be very willing to work with communities as sort of that hub and spoke model, and so I think some maybe more formal relationship would be ideal for our community. Thank you. Here is just a list of some current and emerging issues that could impact our behavioral health initiatives. State and federal funds, we never, we don't control that, and we know there are a lot of changes, but definitely the two opioid overdose prevention grants that we have are ending. One is ending this fiscal year, and then the next one will end next year at this time. So all the Narcan training and Narcan distribution, we will need to, if we want to continue it, we'll have to make it sustainable within the department. There's also some funds in the state budget for housing. So again, having us have a very strong and coordinated effort to be able to identify and use the state funds is going to be important. There are some possible changes to the local DWI funding. There is a possibility that it could decrease, the amount that comes to counties could decrease by as much as 6%, depending on what the governor does with some of the legislation that was passed around alcohol tax. And again, remember that about a quarter of the employees in our department are funded by the local DWI programs, so that could have a significant impact on the work that we do. On the positive side, the New Mexico Medicaid program received permission from the federal government to utilize Medicaid funding for in-jail services. Typically Medicaid, once you're incarcerated, the Medicaid funding stops, but New Mexico now has permission to continue it in corrections settings and in county detention centers. So by the end of this calendar year, the folks that are in the county detention center providing the health care, yes care, should be able to bill Medicaid for medication-assisted treatment and a whole variety of other healthcare services that are delivered in the detention center, which would then reduce the county's investment in the in-jail healthcare expenses. FYI is looking at expanding mobile crisis response teams, so we no longer need to look at that under the Crisis Triage Center. FYI is working on that. Obviously, the transitional supportive housing, and we will be bringing a budget revision to you all next Tuesday, and it also includes contingent funding from the state, just under $800,000 to continue to support the development of that supportive housing project. We have the plan for investing the opioid settlement funds that is in development and will be coming to you all. We have SB 45, which amended how we can use our healthcare assistance funding. Again, that could transform how people access behavioral health services in our community. So that's an up-and-coming opportunity. And then specifically in House Bill 2, there is $10 million for this type of supportive housing that's coupled with behavioral health services. $10 million dedicated to Las Cruces and Doña Ana County. So I would ask for help trying to figure out, is it coming to Doña Ana County government or City of Las Cruces? And if it's not already earmarked for something, how do we, again, intentionally use that funding to support what the needs are that have been identified? And then we also have some initiatives related to gun violence prevention. This was a grant we received last year from the New Mexico Department of Health, and we provided, through that grant, we provided funding to La Piñon, La Casa, Amador Health Center, La Clínica de Familia, and, excuse me, and the Sheriff's Department to do primarily one-on-one. The clinics were doing one-on-one patient education, screening people. Do you have a gun in your home? And if so, here's what you need to know to keep your family safe. Working with DASO to distribute gun locks. Hundreds of gun locks were distributed at community resource centers and other community events. And our promotoras within our department received education, and the team worked to create a nice little flip book to provide education, again, just to, if someone owns a gun in their home, how do they keep it safe so it's not accessible to young children? We no longer have that grant funding, but we still have the gun locks and we still have the education and the people out there doing this work. So that is a quick overview of kind of the primary initiatives and services related to behavioral health, and we are all here for questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Michael. Any questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment, and I'll keep it brief. We've had, I'm excited. I know there's a lot that you're managing, and I think, but I think it's, if we can kind of continue on, I think we've seen continue to see successes. I know you've, and continue to build on them. And I think one of the things that I'm kind of curious to see is going to be how the opioid settlement and what, I guess, how in the end and all that ends up shaking out, but I think there's a lot of potential. And And I think given that model, and depending on what that HB2 monies is for, I think it'd be good for us to maybe have some discussion with the city of Las Cruces and see, is there a way we work jointly on some of those efforts? You know, and then potentially, is there, you know, what is it with other municipalities that we can do, but just so that we have that collaborative effort, and it's not like we're gonna be doing rock, paper, scissors to see who gets all the money. I think it'd be, you know, I think it'd be beneficial to us, because either way, I think we see a lot in, I know we have our struggles in Las Cruces, but we also see that across the county, maybe not as centralized as in Las Cruces, but I think I'd encourage us to have those discussions, and then we can try to figure out how we can, I guess, figure out how we split the funding, or how the funding's used. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anything else? Don't worry, Jamie. I think we're absolutely positively sure that you will get all that money, because you're scary to some people, so we respect that. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you
Yeah,
very
no,
much.
thank you. Moving on, we have retreat and peer training.
So this is going to be another co-presentation by Jonathan Macias, myself, Assistant County Manager, as well as ACM Lopez. But before we dive into some of the active feedback during this work session, I just wanted to kind of run down some of the dates that you want to make sure you have on your calendar, because we have a busy April as you arrive here on the 1st. So of course, we're here at our work session. Next week on April 8th will be our next BOCC meeting. Then after that, we're going to have another work session related specific to budget the following week on April 15th. And then shortly after that will be your next BOCC meeting on the 22nd. The plan is, after that meeting, we will then travel on for our retreat, which we'll be talking about here in terms of the retreat and peer planning. But definitely want to make sure you have those on your calendar and they're blocked out. Your participation is critical as we continue to shape the future planning here at the county, as it is interwoven with the vital conditions. I'll start a little bit in terms of talking about the rundown. So we are in the process of ironing out the retreat agenda together with the contractors. And so Stephen and I will be taking lead, or the two other ACMs as directed by the county manager. We are currently looking at about probably a 3-day immersive peer training program that we have coming up. And it is surrounded around just cohesiveness and trying to make sure that we set forth the expectations for what economic development looks like in the community, some of the new opportunities that you have for unlocked funding, and also braiding in some of the new plans that are expected to be coming later this year. So, Stephen, did you want to add anything?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I think you already heard from me on some of these items that, you know, as we look at some of the facilities in the Hobbs area and have engagement with those people, that we look at potential for multiple uses for our space so that we can meet the needs of our community. So this should be a really good opportunity to look at things with fresh perspective than we've been able to in the past.
Awesome, thank you. Any comments or questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking forward to having the conversation. I think as we, in the spirit of trying to see what other counties are doing, best practices, what can we learn? I know we've seen our infrastructure, but I think the question really is how we've tried to make everything fit in our existing infrastructure, and I think we need to. I think that's where the discussions have been. Is how do we start? I think you said it, Mr. Lopez. You know, rather than using these things, you know, the same infrastructure for the past 30 years in the same way, could there be new uses, or do we start looking at, in the terms you were talking about fire stations, but is there potential that we look at new infrastructure? And I think we see it because we have such a need, and I know there's a lot of needs in the community, but the one thing I hear consistently from constituents is places and resources for activities and it's for exercise and recreation. And I know there's a lot more on that list, but those generally rise to the top because access to places, I think, is Commissioner Gameros noted about the pools in that, at Gadsden, and being able to take the bus. And I completely understand it was that, or going to community centers for the free lunch which I know I did in San Miguel when I stayed with my grandparents. We would go there, play games, basketball, and then have a free lunch. But we know we need to find better ways to access those things. And so I'm looking forward to having those discussions and figuring out how we set a plan forward for us in the future. So looking forward to spending a few days with the staff and with my fellow commissioners.
Aw.
Mr. Chair, if I can make an ask of the commissioners as you get ready to come to the retreat, come with ideas for how we engage our constituents, because we are going to have a very short period of time right after the retreat in which to design, develop an engagement plan. Part of the retreat is going to be spent discussing that. So if you can come with ideas, that'll be great. Some of you are fantastic at your meetings out there with your commissioners, but any ideas you have on how we can do that will be very helpful in making sure we can hit the ground running in order to take advantage of some possible opportunities later this year. And with that said, just a couple things to point out on the efforts regarding peer training. It's not specific to your peer training at the retreat, but we do have a program underway that kicked off yesterday called She Leads, and that is really finding ways that we can empower our female leaders within the county, make sure that they have the right support, the right information, resources to be able to succeed. Anything you want to add on that, since you led?
It's really looking at the potential for mentorship programs, professional development, motivational speakers, and we had great participation. We didn't have a lot of lead time to give our employees, but the participation and input was excellent. And so we will be moving forward with the ideas they provided.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
I saw that. I'm excited. I love to be able to have those, how do we encourage those types of opportunities for employees? And so thank you all for whoever and how it was set up. Thank you. Like I said, I'm excited to see that, and hopefully the employees and our teams will buy in and I think continue to allow it to grow, because I think that's one thing, as I've seen in many workplaces, is as you have those opportunities for people to be exposed or be have those just whether it be training or I think just the different opportunities, it's amazing for what it can do for individuals as well as teams. So thank you.
Cool.
So Chair and Commission, as we continue to look at what our agenda will look like for hubs, we are also looking at including a tour, not only with the recreational facilities or some of the quality of life, because that's really the narrative here, is how does quality of life infuse and support the likes of economic development, and then how do economic development opportunities give us a new litmus for what do we need to be adding in our community to be capturing some of the investments of the future. There's also the discussion to be had, as we talked a little bit about the summer enrichment program, about how technical facilities like the CTE or the CTEC Center that's up there, we're narrowing down having an opportunity to tour that and to learn how that came about, because it takes a lot more long-range planning than just 6 or 12 months. We're looking at basic things in terms of these facilities are considered active learning facilities, but they're also modular from what I've seen presented on some of the other boards that I sit on. And from that perspective, all that means is we have to have even basic design down for what a facility would look like, how it has some level of equity within the community for the 3 districts that it would purport to support within the community. And even when speaking with some of the designers, how they looked at, it's a very basic idea, but the kilns for how they're teaching some of their students, how they had to design out the footprint of that, because an investment or design on the front end is not something they could easily move once they've opened the center. So those are the kinds of things that we really want you to open your mind to in terms of the long-range planning and cohesiveness that we'll need to see on the board to be able to provide us that direction as we go forward, and staggering it out in terms of what enrichment and investment looks like across the county for the years to come. So thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. With that, anything else to add, commissioners? Anything from staff? Seeing none, thank you for this awesome work session. We are adjourned at 10:50.